Local intelligentsia schmoozed and pondered on the issue of greylisting and how South Africa should maneuver to get out of it. Greylisting means that South Africa is now subjected to closer scrutiny in its financial transactions globally. This as the country was found wanting when dealing with financial crimes like money laundering and terrorism financing. While laws have been pushed through to deal with the same, our criminal justice system remains weak in being able to charge and prosecute those responsible for these crimes. Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana says significant resources have been given to the security cluster to aid the country to get off the grey list as soon as possible.
I've provided 1.3 billion rand to the NPA over the next medium term to deal precisely with the FATF issues and the Zondo Commission report. There it is. That's my intervention we can do. We are giving 265 million rand to the Financial Intelligence Center to deal with these issues. 985 million rand to the Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation to strengthen its capacity and to employ another 2,647 posts. We have given the police 10,000 people in this fund ending this year, ending in March. In the years beginning from the 1st of April, they will employ another 5,000. We shall add another, which will be 15,000 over the MTF.
Business lamented that the country has had to be labelled with the grey list tag, as this has unquantifiable negative implications, hitting back at President Cyril Ramaphosa's stated view that grey listing presents an opportunity for South Africa to do better.
We should have seen this. We should have said that we could have avoided this and we should have come together. I think the financial sector and the Reserve Bank, I think, started raising the flag, started doing things, started talking to FATF about it, but other parts of government just did not see it as a priority. And so, you know, it was a crisis then. We didn't have to wait for it to play out, right? And that's why I don't see this as an opportunity. We shouldn't have to wait for grey listing to deal with the significant challenges we have in law and order.
The Financial Action Task Force has viewed the mainstream financial sector as doing quite well when it comes to identifying and reporting suspicious transactions to the Financial Intelligence Center, with the non-financial sector, which also deals with assets of high monetary value, like lawyers and estate agents, for example, found to be more problematic in being able to interrogate financial issues. Financial professionals in particular are being urged to do their part to contribute to the solutions.
I've said that we've done the things to minimize the impact already. But now the important thing is that people who run accounting firms here, forensic firms here, ourselves as financial services, who have got what it would take to strengthen the weak part of the system. We must do that and insist now, before time has run out, that create space for us to assist you, strengthen the weak part of the system. That is the only way we'll get out of this.
South Africa has many issues to deal with. Grey listing adds the layer of making it that much more difficult to do business with the outside world, not to mention costlier. And this culmination of problems could prove problematic in the long run.
And what I'm worried about is not necessarily the near-term implications, whether, GDP is going to contract in the next quarter or this year for that matter. So I think if we don't resolve some of these issues, the longer-term implications of it could be quite severe. The Minister spoke about not being worried about ratings. I do think if we don't address this, we should be worried about ratings in the future and where the country is ultimately going.
And get our house in order we must, to limit the time spent on the grey list. But it's going to take hard work among key stakeholders.
I think the mutual evaluation report used the term sufficient progress. We have to demonstrate sufficient progress, that we're moving in the right direction. It's grey as to what that means. And those 8 priority actions, if you read the wording, there aren't hard objective tests of whether we've met those 8 things. There is some level of subjectivity. So partly this is a lobby we have to prepare, but we need to have the evidence to back that lobby to achieve what we need. And that evidence, above all else, needs to be successful demonstrations of the criminal justice system working. We need to say, look, they're in jail now. We're not just talking about our plans to prosecute or the charges and so on.
The Financial Action Task Force has given South Africa an initial deadline of January 2025 to deal with its deficiencies. The Finance Minister says he's confident that the country can meet it.
I think for me it's a reasonable time frame. Okay? It's a reasonable time frame. Where I sit, we should achieve that before January 2025. We've structured an environment where the entire team of the six still exists to work together now, of those departmental officials. We intend to be reporting, to put pressure on them to be reporting to Cabinet every quarter in terms of progress. That, in my view, is going to put pressure even on the security cluster to move.
The security cluster may have been showered with the financial resources needed to address greylisting, but the next challenge will be ensuring that that money is used correctly to get the skilled forensic investigators, among other scarce skills, to ensure that the police can follow the dirty money and ultimately make arrests that result in successful prosecutions. Nompumelelo Siziba, SABC News, Johannesburg.